Welcome into Outkick the Show. I hope all of you are having fantastic Fridays wherever you may be across this great country or this great land. I hope you're about to go out and live your life and prosper as you roll into the weekend. Go out to the restaurant, go to the lake, go to the beach, go to whatever activity you can ordinarily embrace on the weekend. It's time to get back to normalcy. I don't know how many of you listened to Outkick this morning, but if you have not listened to my interview with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis this morning at 8:20 a.m. Eastern, you need to be listening to that. It's 20 minutes. I've put up the YouTube. You can go download the podcast. You can get it wherever you want. You can get audio, you can get video. Make sure that you go listen to that. If you are listening to this right now and you are not subscribed to Outkick, the podcast, or this, by the way, on a podcast, but certainly the radio program, you're missing out on a lot, frankly. And right now, I'm giving you guys a challenge for my audience. If you go and write me a 5-star review on Outkick, I will read the funniest on Monday, the smartest, the funniest, and if I read your review, you get an autographed copy of my book. All right? So that is that's a pretty good challenge for all of you out there. Go to the podcast, go into it, give us a 5-star review, and write something funny or smart, and you get the opportunity to get an autographed copy of my book if I read your review out on my radio program on Monday. So we have got a lot to dive into, and I'm going to dive into it to start with the coronavirus. Right now, we have news that New York City is opening up on June 8th, beginning the open process, and that LA is going to be able to go back to restaurants and go back and get your hair cut. So the two biggest cities in the country, New York and LA, are effectively opening. And that's significant because it means that we are going to dive into it in a big way. It means finally that the Corona Bros and the lockdown is coming to a close. But let me just say this. I believe the lockdown, as long as it has lasted, is the most devastatingly wrong public policy decision of my life. You can make an argument that for 2 weeks, the lockdown might have made some sense because we didn't have enough information about the coronavirus or how dangerous it was. But at this point, the idea that anybody in Pennsylvania or Michigan or Minnesota or Illinois, a lot of you in Big Ten country who are listening to me right now, would still be on lockdown is absolutely insane. Okay? It makes zero sense that the lockdown should still be going on. There is no data to support it whatsoever. This was an unmitigated disaster from a public policy perspective. And we failed not because there was one party that made a wrong decision. It was because the stupidity was bipartisan. Okay? And this is important. Okay? The stupidity was bipartisan, and I would equate it with the Iraq War. And I don't see these as being partisan-related issues. Going to war in Iraq was a disaster. We never should have done it. We wasted trillions of dollars, tens of thousands of lives. There was no reason for us to have ever gone into Iraq, okay? Period. I'm not trying to be political. I don't see that as a Republican issue. I don't see that as a Democratic issue. There was no reason for anybody in this country to be locked down for longer than 2 weeks. And frankly, I'm not even sure there was ever a reason for us to lock down at all. We bought in as a nation to fear porn. We made emotional decisions which were unsupported by logic in both cases. And that's why I believe conflict is good. If everyone agrees you live in a totalitarian dictatorship, people should disagree because that's how you end up with a marketplace of ideas. You need an actual marketplace. And I'm one of the last, I feel like, First Amendment absolutists in the country, which again, I don't see as a partisan related issue. We need real debates. And in both of the dumbest decisions I believe that have been made in my life, and I'm 41 years old, I think the war in Iraq was the dumbest decision that's ever been made in my life until we made the decision to lock down for months in this country, and now I think it's the dumbest decision. We went from a 3.5 unemployment rate to potentially a 20% unemployment rate. We have unemployed one of every 4 workers in this country. 100 million people or more, probably including your boy here, have taken pay cuts in existing jobs that they have to try to avoid more jobs being lost. It's an unmitigated disaster. And we failed, and I encourage you to go listen to Ron DeSantis. One reason we failed was because we made really bad decisions in many states. New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Illinois, Minnesota, all of these states followed New York's lead and bought into these fear porn models that there were going to be overwhelmed hospitals. And they made the decision to take patients out of hospitals and put them into nursing homes. Ron DeSantis talked about it, the Florida governor, on my show this morning. He said that he was told that 460 some odd thousand people were going to be in hospitals with the coronavirus on April 24th. Do you know how many people actually ended up in hospitals on April 24th with the coronavirus, he told us? 2,100. These fear porn models that New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo bought into led to the idea that hospitals were going to be overloaded, which is why the death rate has been so high in the states that bought the most into these quote-unquote expert models. New York, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Illinois, all of them have Democratic governors who followed Andrew Cuomo's lead and put infected patients back into hospitals, back into nursing homes from hospitals, which led to a massive increase in deaths. Ron DeSantis said something interesting. I jotted it down. He said Florida had more people die of the coronavirus who were over 90 years old than have died of the coronavirus and are under 65 years old. That's a pretty unbelievable data point. He said there were 0 deaths from the coronavirus from the ages of 0 to 18. Also said in the entire state of Florida, said he expected fans to be back for football this fall, expected high school football to be played in the state of Florida. All of those very positive. Again, he's a pretty smart dude. Played captain of the baseball team at Yale, Harvard law grad. Ron DeSantis, pretty smart guy. He was great on Outkick this morning. If you haven't read it, I'm sorry, if you haven't heard it, you need to go listen today to that. You can watch the video at YouTube. You can listen to it. We're putting up clips. You can go download the podcast, the easiest way possible to do it. Okay. On top of that, we have got fear that continues to infect our American sports leagues. And in particular, that fear, which is nonsensical, okay? That fear has led the NBA now to say that they're not going to come back until July 31st. That's according to the most recent report from The Athletic. July 31st? Guys, we have got soccer back up and running in June in the English Premier League in England, in, I believe it's La Liga in Spain. If one of you is a huge Spanish fan of soccer, you can correct me if I mispronounced it. And in Serie A in Italy, okay? England, Spain, and Italy all have nearly twice the per capita death rate of the United States. I know a lot in the media just want to focus on raw numbers. Per capita, England, Spain, and Italy, nearly twice the death rate of the United States. They're going to be back playing 6 weeks before we are going to be playing. I want to repeat that. The NBA is going to start playing 6 weeks after England, Spain, and Italy, which all 3 have twice of our death rate. They are going to wait to play in the NBA until Disney freaking World has been open for 3 weeks. You are going to be able to go get on Space Mountain, not Ric Flair. Woo! Not the Ric Flair version of Space Mountain. You are going to be able to go ride Space Mountain for 3 weeks in Florida before the NBA is going to get around to actually playing. We have embraced to such an extent the culture of safetyism that we're not even willing to acknowledge that risk exists and that risk often leads to good outcomes. All right? Give you an example. So people like say, nothing good happens after midnight. Did you go to college? Almost everything good in college happens after midnight. Most of you slept with your husbands or your wives for the first time in college after midnight. Lots of really good things happen after midnight. Is it riskier in general when you're out late after dark? Yes, of course it is. Just like it's riskier to drink a beer or to go get on a boat or to get on an airplane. Risk is a part of life, and taking smart risks is what makes life worth living. If we all walked around in bubble wrap all day or quarantined ourselves and lived in bubbles, we would probably be safer from germs and falls, but our lives would also suck. This is a big deal. We got to stop the helicopter parenting. We got to stop the safetyism. We have to stop the idea that we can remove all danger from life. If you want to remove all danger from life, you don't ever have to get outside of your bed. If you're rich enough, you can lay in bed underneath the covers and crawl to the bathroom and drink water and crawl back into bed with your crackers and watch Netflix and gently weep. More accurately, you're probably going to be in your bed with your covers over top of you, getting on Twitter and writing things that are mean to other people from your anonymous account. Because by and large, you have embraced being a complete and total fearful loser. Life has risks. It's time to embrace some of them and actually take some risks. The NBA should be back long before July 31st. This is absolute lunacy, okay? Makes absolutely no sense. Major League Baseball, I'm going to tee off on you too. Get back playing! This is insane. You're not in danger. You're not even trying to argue that you're in danger anymore, Major League Baseball. You're fighting over money. Guess what? A huge percentage of your fan base, 40 million people in the United States, have lost their jobs. Probably over 100 million have taken pay cuts. Nobody wants to see millionaires and billionaires whining over how much money they're going to make when everybody has lost a lot of money. Little League Baseball is back. Little leaguers are back with crowds present before Major League Baseball is going to be back. Major League Baseball should be playing right now. They should have had the entire month of June with no other daily team sport going on. Instead, they bungled it. The commissioner, the agents, the players, the owners, all of them. All of you are making me sick with your stupidity. I legitimately believe that if you told me, Clay Travis, you get the leaders of both of these groups in a room, we're taking up all your phones, you can't come out until you get a result in 24 hours, I would emerge with a deal and Major League Baseball will be playing again. I 100% believe I could pull that off. I think if you told Major League Baseball right now, if you're President Donald Trump, I am introducing legislation to end the antitrust exemption in baseball, I think that baseball would be back as quickly as you can snap your fingers. It's time for leadership to happen. Get in line and make it happen. All right, we got craziness going on in Minnesota. The biggest flaw that's going on in our media today is twofold and they're connected. I want you to follow this argument. The media decides what stories are, and they use whatever those stories happen as evidence, anecdotally, of why their vision of the world is correct. Let me explain, okay? We live in a big country. There are things going on every single day in this country that are wild, that are crazy, that can confirm even the most insane conspiracy theorist worldview, okay? Because there's 327 million of us. On any given day, all sorts of crazy things happen. What has happened is, in a social media era, the media takes outlier events and they try to turn them into evidence of why this is actually dangerous, why we should all be afraid of it, why we should be buying into the fear porn. Let me give you an example. Almost no children under the age of 18 have died of the coronavirus. I just told you that Florida didn't have a single one of them. There are, however, a handful of people who have. Most of those kids all have serious pre-existing health conditions. Every time a kid dies in a state, it goes out as a major national story. And people say, oh my God, see, it's not just old people who are dying. Well, that's true on an individual basis, But if you look at the data, what you see is that is an outlier. It is not in any way representative of the real world, okay? Using outliers as data to justify your worldview has become the province of the media in society today. And as a result, people come to believe things that are not true because of the outlier stories that are going on, okay? This is an important detail, all right? Right now, let me give you an example in Minnesota. In Minnesota, we have a story that is horribly unfortunate, okay? What appears to be an innocent man died at the hands of a police officer, despite the fact that he did absolutely nothing wrong. That is unfortunate. That is awful. I wish that it did not happen. It is not representative, however, of most police officers or most people's interaction with police officers. How do we know that? Because of the data, all right? You are more likely, regardless of your race or your gender or your ethnicity, to walk outside and be stung and killed by a bee, wasp, or hornet than you are to be unarmed and killed by a police officer. Let me repeat that. You are more likely, regardless of your race or gender or ethnicity or sexuality or anything else, in America today, to walk outside and be killed by a bee, a wasp, or a hornet. If someone wanted to argue that bees, wasps, and hornets are indiscriminately killing people for no reason on a regular basis, they could argue that, and they could find someone who died of a bee, wasp, or hornet and create that storyline. Okay? That happens, but it's not representative. The problem with media by anecdote is it convinces people that the anecdote is representative of the larger issue. This is a failure of media, okay? This is a failure of media. What it grew from is you used to tell big stories. And the way that you would humanize a big story is you would find one anecdote to lead with. Let me give you an example. The opioid epidemic kills something like 70,000 people a year. If you want to tell a story about the significance of the opioid epidemic, you might well open it with a heart-wrenching examination of one person who has died of the opioid epidemic as a stand-in of the 70,000 that are otherwise dying. Okay? That is then an anecdote that reflects a larger social reality, which is a real danger to people who are using drugs. All right? We don't have a massive number of people that are unarmed and are being killed by the police every year. It is a pinprick of the population in 327 million. We don't even have a huge number of people that are shot and killed by police for any reason, even though most of those shootings are justified because police are under danger. We don't even talk about any of those shootings unless the shooting is done by a white police officer by and large, and unless the victim is black. That is a tiny pinprick of police shootings. Again, think about this on an intellectual and intellectually sound mind view, okay? Of all the people that are shot and killed by police every year, over half are white, Hispanic, and Asian. Over half are white, Hispanic, and Asian, and white represents around 72 or 73% of all people that are shot and killed by police. Which means that black people represent only 27% of the population that is shot and killed by police. Now, people say, well, black people are only 12% of the population, so they're overrepresented. That's true. But black people are also drastically overrepresented in violent crime. I'm talking about violent crime because I don't care about smoking weed or things that are not violent in nature, right? If you're committing a crime that's not violent in nature, I don't think our police should really be involved in arresting you. That's my personal belief. I also am not a strong proponent of the war on drugs in general. I think we've wasted trillions of dollars. I'm not sure that the result is anywhere near what we should have for the money that we have spent on the war on drugs. You can agree or disagree with me on that, right? The data, though, is important here. And so what is important about the data is the data reflects that black people are 12% of the population and they commit over half of all murders. That's a statistical fact, okay? So violent crime, black people, for whatever reason, you can argue about why that is. The data doesn't lie, though. Black people commit way more violent crime than any other race, okay? Most of the victims of black crime are black. In fact, 93% of all black murders are committed by black people. The only time we have stories that get national attention, most people totally ignore. Black people do, white people, Asian, Hispanic, black on black crime. Doesn't matter, doesn't get much attention. The only time we get attention in stories like these is when there is a white person who is the alleged perpetrator. Then the media dives into it and creates the idea that murder is often occurring with white people killing black people. That's a tiny pinprick of murder in this country. It very rarely, hardly ever occurs. Yet the way that anecdotally the media covers stories creates rampant racial division. Let me give you an example, okay? Colin Kaepernick kneeled to protest what he said was police killings of black and brown people. That's 27%, roughly, of all police killings. What if Colin Kaepernick had kneeled to protest police violence in general? Well, then that would have brought in white people, that would have brought in Asian people, that would have brought in Hispanic people, that would have brought in black people. It still wouldn't have made sense to kneel during the national anthem in uniform at work. It's a bad decision. But it wouldn't have been something that looked like he is trying to isolate a tiny segment of the population. This is all important. Data is important. Facts are important. I've been fired up about this. A lot of people don't understand the difference between facts and opinion. Worse, lots of people choose to support opinions they agree with even if they actually have no factual basis underpinning them. Let me give you an example, an easy analogy to think about. I can say right now, I don't believe Tom Brady is going to win the Super Bowl this year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You can agree or disagree with my opinion, but all of you would understand that's an opinion. The only thing that is correct in there, Tom Brady's an NFL player. He plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Super Bowl happens every year, okay? You can agree or disagree with my statement that I don't believe Tom Brady will win the Super Bowl this year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What if I say, I don't believe Tom Brady will win the Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because he's never won a Super Bowl before, and he has never, ever actually been in a Super Bowl before. Therefore, I don't think he's going to win a Super Bowl this year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Well, a lot of you might still agree with my conclusion, my opinion, but you should not give me any credence for that opinion because the facts upon which I based that opinion, that Tom Brady had never been to a Super Bowl and he'd never won one before, is wrong 9 different ways because Brady's been to 9 Super Bowls and he's won 6 of them. And so when you actually look at the data and look at my facts, you shouldn't be supporting my conclusion because my facts are all wrong. And what I have seen, and this is a big deal, and this is a large issue, people lack the ability to understand facts, and they want their opinions to be justified even without the existing facts. Which is why, if you look at any story on social media, every story on social media almost always, especially if it's the coronavirus, begins with somebody saying, "See, I told you so." People want to be right so badly, they are willing to cheer for bad things to happen if it means that they are right. That is the Corona bro mindset. Look at the reports. Somebody can come out and say, man, the number of positive tests in Florida is up today, and the number of deaths is up today. And the first comment will be, I told you this was going to happen when Florida opened back up. Now, we're not even looking at the total number of cases. We're not even looking at the data in a larger context to understand it. The first thing people say is, oh, I knew this would happen. That's what happens on social media. And this is why my big thesis is social media has caused us to vacillate wildly. We don't make reasonable, moderate, thoughtful decisions anymore. We vacillate from one extreme to the other. Everybody's got to shut down. Everybody's got to be back open. You don't care about my grandma. Oh my God, the entire country is coming undone. Social media has exacerbated wild swings in decision making. And everybody's partially guilty of this. I always say, my opinions are not perfect. I'm going to get a lot of predictions wrong. But I almost never get a fact wrong. I spend a lot of time to make sure that what I say is rooted in factual reality. My opinions that are based on facts might end up being wrong. My predictions certainly might. I'm imperfect like all of you. But I try to be perfect with my facts, and if I get one wrong, I quickly correct it. All of that ties in a big way in Minnesota. Many people believe fundamental untruths. They believe they're in danger when they're not. They think that they're going to die of the coronavirus. They think police are going to kill them. Neither one of those things are likely. You're far more likely to get killed by a bee, wasp, or hornet. If you're young and you're watching or listening to this right now, you're under 24, you're more likely to get struck by lightning than you are to die of the coronavirus. All of this ties in as a part of a bigger picture to me with what's going on in China. The virus came out of China, but viral spread is from China taking over much of the country. Right now, we are in a new Cold War. That new Cold War is between China and the United States. China wants their totalitarian brand of communism to be the future of the world. They want to do to Hong Kong what they are trying to do to Hong Kong to the rest of the world. You look at the way they're doing it with intellectual property. Oh, we're going to censor American films in order to show them in China. Before long, American films start adjusting their scripts to try to make Chinese people happy who are in positions of power. Over time, American freedom of speech and thought becomes more circumscribed. We've seen it already with the NBA, which is why in October I said this is one of the biggest stories in the world. China wants to rule the world under their auspices of totalitarian dictatorship. It's what they're trying to do to Hong Kong right now. They want to stamp out democracy. They want to remove freedom of speech. They want to own the world under their own demands. When China told the NBA to shut up and dribble, and the NBA did it, democracy protests in Hong Kong were 100% legitimate. Now, 5 years in prison if you protest in Hong Kong. 3 years if you don't respect the national anthem of China in Hong Kong. We need a leader. And I don't care whether it's Donald Trump. I don't care whether it's Joe Biden. I will support any American leader who does it, who effectively begins economic warfare with China. We have to bring back all of our production out of China. We have to end our relationship as a trading partner with China to a large extent. We have to declare American economic independence. We need to stop providing the fuel to grow China's economic engine. We need to stand up to China in a big way. And we need to stand up to totalitarianism in a big way. China is trying to take over Hong Kong. Taiwan will be next, and who knows where they will spread from there in Asia. We need a leader, regardless of political party, who is willing to go toe-to-toe with China and trade punches and beat them down. I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. I hope I made you a little bit smarter today. If you enjoy the show, share it with your friends. I hope you have fantastic weekends. Make sure you go listen to that Governor Ron DeSantis interview. I thought it went really well, and I think you'll learn a lot. Go read my mailbag today at Outkick, outkick.com. Go subscribe to the podcast. Give me a 5-star review. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you for hanging out with me. My name is Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Probably not. Maybe. Who knows? It's the weekend. But certainly I'll be back on Monday. Kisses. Have great weekends. Go live your lives. Economic explosion. That's what we need in this country. We need people back to work, and we need to return to normalcy. Love all you guys. Thanks for hanging with me. This has been Outkick the Show. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. See y'all. Love you. Thank you, Facebook.